All right, guys. So this is the last one before I do the video on the complete walkthrough. So Copybone Advanced and Leg IK. We're going to cover both of these in this video because these aren't quite as difficult to explain. So in the PDA layering, I just added variables for each of these to be bound to. And for the copy bone, we have the translation weight, the rotation weight, and the scale weight. So the source bone is the hand R, and the target bone is the virtual bone, which we will be using we'll be using the leg IK to drive the hand R to that virtual bone location. So why do we need to copy the hand R to the target bone? Well, it's because it gives us more direct control over the motion that we just copied over to the virtual bone. This allows us to dictate exactly how dramatic each of these elements are. So especially for when we're aiming a rifle, it allows us to reorient the rotation of that virtual bone so that it's still pointing in mesh space towards the direction that we had intended it to be pointing. This prevents it from when we're aiming, from aiming way down here or from aiming over here somewhere. So that's what that gives us. So let's see, I'm going to need to open up that aiming PDA. So if I disable this rotation, then this is the copied motion rotation, and you'll see how like offset it is. It's kind of aiming up, which is pretty dramatic. If we just turn this off entirely, then you'll see that it's actually going inside the chest. Okay. And now the reason why this is actually happening is because if we go back to the bone mask, we did copy the bone over. So let's just open up the bone mask settings for the aiming. So we do have that virtual bone in mesh space, 100%. It doesn't matter if you add local space. If you add local space or not. This is how it looks if you don't copy that virtual bone over at all from the pose. You see. So I haven't really experimented with the local space, really. I've just been using the mesh space. But yeah, it's not going to reorient the actual location of that virtual bone for us when we're just masking it, because it's not actually affecting the mesh space location of it relative, to component space. There's no way to do that from here, but it can help us stabilize its rotation. So going back to the copy bone, that allows us to pull it back over to the shoulder where we actually want it. And then we can dampen the translation and stuff. So the source bone is the hand R, and the target bone is the virtual bone where we're going to be moving our hand R to. That virtual bone is what we copied the hand movement relative to the spine. We copied that over to the virtual bone, and then over here we're basically, this is before we've actually moved the hand to that virtual bone. Before we move the hand to the virtual bone, we're actually going to reorient its location and rotation before we do that. So if I just disable this entirely, you'll see that it'll still be inside of the chest. So when we're in a resting pose, we may not need to apply this at all on the translation, or we might just need to apply it a little bit. So if we come over here to the resting one, you'll see I'm only dampening the left to right along the component space X. I'm only dampening it slightly along the X while we're in the resting pose. I do have that at 100%, but I believe I had actually turned that down to like 0.7. If we disable that, you'll see what it looks like if we don't reorient the rotation. But you might just want to reorient it a little bit. So like maybe we'll just keep 0.8 of or 0.7. And so now we get a lot more of that rotation bleeding through. But we can dampen the forward and back. Am I on the right one? Yeah. Yeah, and so that did help prevent it from bleeding through. So the reason why it's still moving back and forth actually is because of the setup that we have. But we don't actually need much of that motion copied from the Y direction. So this helps us kind of control the actual back and forth movement a little bit. If we move over back to the aiming, we definitely want that to be almost entirely accurate rotation-wise, but just doing that alone does not help us a whole lot. The X, and by the way, this space works kind of like before. So you have the control space. You almost always want this to be in component space. This space, this is the space to convert the transforms into prior to copying the component. So if we come back over to the copy, this is basically like the copy space. And then by default, by default, the translation space bone is not assigned, but it is checked. And so this space will be, if set to none, the axes will be relative to the source bone itself. So X would still this X would be X relative to the handar. And it's probably okay to have it like that. Now, as far as the shoulder clipping right here, we can reduce that by reducing the Y, but you might still get a little bit of clipping here. And that's just basically because of the fact that we're feathering this in, and also we only have, we have the spine partial. So you would have to increase the spine mesh space, and if you did that, it's going to look a lot stiffer, but that's how we made the pose. So you could redo the pose if you wanted to, if you wanted it to be more dynamic. You could redo the pose so that his spine wasn't twisted in the pose, because these animations have his spine straight, no twist to the left or the right, really. It's kind of centered. But the problem with that is if the spine is too centered when we're aiming a rifle, then you might get elbow popping, because you'll have your offhand will have a problem reaching the rifle. If it's a big rifle, the bigger the rifle, the harder it's going to be to prevent that issue. So you could turn this up to say, 0.6, but just know that your torso is going to be a bit stiffer now. And it's going to look less dynamic. And so you could, you're going to have to compromise somewhere if you want to be able to hold a rifle like this while running. So I think 0.4 is okay. If you set it to 0, you're going to get a lot of clipping. And you're going to get reach issues too. So I kind of found a middle ground between reach issue and maybe 0.5 is actually better. So I tried to find a middle ground between reaching issue and elbow clipping. And that's where I kind of landed at about 0.4. But yeah, this right here, I think that's pretty much self-explanatory once you explain it. You're almost always going to want this to be in component space. You could switch it to maybe parent bone space, but you're not going to want it to be in bone space. I don't know. I mean, you could probably use bone space. Actually, that doesn't look too bad. I think I had a problem with that, though, when I was over here in the resting. Oh, my bad, guys. Yeah, so I was switching the control space for the resting state. Yeah, so you'll see. Yeah, that's basically the issue that you have if you try to do that. Parent bone space is not much better. It kind of like distorts things weirdly, and you'll see we're having like axis flipping issues too here. You're almost always going to want that to be in component space, just so you know. And now hopefully you kind of understand why. There may be situations where you want that to be in one of the other spaces, but you're probably never going to want it to be in world space. All right, so moving on to the leg IK. So I kind of briefly explained this to you before. The leg IK is used because it's the only node for IK that we have that can take in a curve that it can use to drive the elbow orientation or knee orientation if it's a leg. You can pretty much ignore all these settings right here. The only settings you need to worry about is the IK foot bone. For the right hand, that would need to be the hand that the the virtual bone that the copy motion is copying the motion to, which is this bone right here off of the spine. If it was the left hand, it would be the hand L primary. If it's the right hand, it would be the hand R primary, and then it would be moving the hand R to the hand R primary or the hand L to the hand L primary. It would be doing that first with a two-handed weapon, the hand that's holding it, and then the support hand would be done separately. So the number of bones in the limb needs to be 2. If you set it to 3, it's going to include the clavicle, and it's going to bend the clavicle in weird ways. You don't really have to worry about any of these other options here, except for the twist offset curve name. That's going to be the name that you assigned to the copy bone motion over here as the target curve name. And this is the motion that's going to be used to drive the elbow of these arms. So the soft percent length and the soft alpha allows you to it kind of like softens the time. It delays it so that it kind of blends towards the target. And you can read the description to get a better idea of that. So you may want to reduce that down to like 0.9 or 0.97. I probably want to reduce it further than that. The soft alpha for the primary hand, you're probably going to leave that at 1.0. For the offhand, this is important. You're going to leave the soft percent length at 1.0. But your soft alpha is going to be 0. And the reason why is because the offhand needs to be able to follow its target accurately. If we don't do this, yeah, so it's not going to show us in here. Let me just run the game so you can see it. I don't know why it doesn't show it in here, but let's see. Okay, oh wait, am I doing this for the, let me go back and look, because I might be looking at the wrong one. This is the resting, and we're not in resting right now. No, we were in resting. Okay, maybe that was a bug then. So that might have been a bug, but basically, let me tell you why I have these split up into two. The reason why is because, despite what you might think, if you put 2 here, and if you have the right hand applied first on index 0 and then the left hand applied second, you might think that the right hand position would be updated, and then the left hand would be driven to that virtual bone off of the right hand where the left hand is supposed to be relative to the corrected position of the right hand here. But that's not actually the case, because this one and this one are both being applied to whatever the pose is here. So you need to first correct the right hand, and then you need to correct the offhand after the right hand has been corrected. That way it gets placed in the correct position. Now, there is a way around that, I believe. But then I was having the issue with the hand lagging behind, which is why I still split them up into 2. But one way to do it would be to say, for the right hand, you could add drive it towards this virtual bone off of this virtual bone, which points to the left hand. And you could do it that way. What is this warning? Oh, right. Yeah, you could do it that way, but I think you're still going to have problems with this setup. So you may end up having to still drive it separately. If you have problems with the hand not staying on the gun, and I don't know why I'm not now, but if you do, just set the soft alpha for the offhand to be 0. I'm not sure why I'm not having that problem now, but basically it has something to do with Copy Bone Advanced. So Copy Bone Advanced was doing something that was causing it, I guess, to lag behind based off of these values here. But yeah, I think that basically sums it up. I don't want to drag this on, I think you basically get it. You can set this max iterations down. I don't think you need 12. I think you could probably reduce this down to like 4 or maybe even lower and still get results that are just as good. For legs, the legs are probably more sensitive, so you might need higher iterations for legs. But for the arms, I didn't see any significant difference when I lowered that max iteration, and lowering the max iteration will increase performance for this node. All right, so I'll see you in the next video. In the next video, I'm going to actually show you, I'm actually going to walk you through how to set this entire thing up from scratch.